Hi everyone, and welcome to TLDR Week 12. The objectives for this week is going to be learning how to use loops and incorporating tar into a script. The idea behind a loop is that we can use a repetitive task, and this way we don't have to manually do it every time we want something to happen. This isn't the same as an if-else statement or a case statement. This is going to be something like, for example, I have a folder, it has 10 files in it, and I would like to add today's date to the name of all of the files. I don't want to have to go in and manually add that date. What I would want to do instead is something like a loop so that I can add that date in easily. I can also use this for something like a lot of networking will use loops so that I can do things like check server status. I might have a loop running continuously or every hour or something to make sure that my server is still up and running. We can use while loops. The idea behind a while loop is a while loop runs as long as the condition is successful. As soon as that condition is false, the while loop will stop. I can do this for things like counting or reading input. An example of a while loop is what you're seeing on the screen right now. This would be a loop that opens 4 terminal windows. I'm going to start at I, my counter, being 0. While my counter I is less than 4, I want to use xterm to open a window. So what's going to happen is on the first iteration, I is going to be 0. 0 is less than 4, so a window will open. I will then add 1 to I so that I is now 1. Now, this is very important. When we are looking at loops, we need to make sure that we have some variety of counter to make sure that we are able to have a stop to the loop. Now, there are some use cases for infinite loops, but we're really not getting to that right now. We are going to pretend like loops always want to stop. So I want to have my I counter. For a loop, I need to make sure that I have where my loop starts, where my loop stops, and the iteration, the counter increasing to make sure that I will actually get to the point of it stopping. So first run through, I is 0, 0 is less than 4, a window opens, add 1 to I. Next run through, I is 1, 1 is less than 4, a window opens, add 1 to I. Next run through, I is 2, 2 is less than 4, window opens, add 1 to I, 3. Next run through, 3 is less than 4, window opens, add 1 to I, and it's 4. On this run, we'll say, is 4 less than 4? The answer is no, so my loop will end. If instead of -LT, I had used -LE, less than or equal to, it would actually run an extra time. Until loops, I'm mostly going to have us skipped past. They are absolutely useful, but they are a little bit more complex if you haven't done a lot of coding before. This is an example of a more complex while loop. This is actually checking to see if a disk is full. So you can see what a more complex set of loops is, where you can actually see a while loop that contains an until loop that contains a while loop. So this is an example of a more complex chunk of code. We can also use a for loop or a for each loop. This will allow us to process a list of items. We can also do this for items being something from another command. For example, let's say I wanted to have a loop happen a certain number of times. I can actually do that in a for loop just as well. So if I have for I in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or for I in open curly brace, 1.5, close curly brace. In both of these cases, it's going to say welcome I number of times and iterate through this sequence. I can actually also use for loops in the case of having the for loop run not on a count. So, an example, if I said for file in splat, do cat file done, as my code, what that would actually do is that's the equivalent of saying for every single file in this particular folder set, I would like to see the contents of that file. And in that case, what the for loop would actually do is run through and show me the contents of every single file that it can find. So I don't have to tell it I have 5 files. I just say for file in Splat, and then that's actually going to be able to say I do this until I have no more files left to do this with. The assignment for this week, you're going to be writing me 2 scripts. The first one is going to be echoing a phrase. I want you to ask the user for the phrase and the number of times that it is echoed. You can use read or positional parameters. So you want to say to the user, what do you want me to say and how many times do you want me to say it? And if they said hello 3 times, then your script should say hello, hello, hello. You want to make sure that you are asking them for the number of times that they would like the phrase repeated as well as the phrase. The second script is a countdown. I want the user to be able to specify the number it's starting with. Countdown should go to 1. So if you say, what countdown do you want to start with? And they say 3, then your script should say 3, 2, 1. And that should work for any number that they put in. Please let me know if you have questions.